Among the thousands of reports of unidentified flying objects that the U.S. Air Force, over many years of its investigations, was never able to convincingly explain and classified as unidentified. A special place is held by those rare, but particularly intriguing cases in which eyewitnesses claim to have seen not just strange craft, but also their occupants. Precisely such an incredible sight presented itself to William Squires, a musician by profession, who at that time, in the early 1950s, worked at radio station KOM in Pittsburgh, Kansas. His encounter with the unknown occurred early on the morning of August 25, 1952, an era when flying saucers had already firmly entered public consciousness, but official authorities were still trying to downplay the seriousness of this phenomenon. Surprisingly, some details of his detailed description show a striking similarity to what was observed around the same time by a certain Susan Knight from distant Maryland, which lends additional credibility to both cases and makes one wonder about a possible common source for these sightings. It was about 5:30 a.m., the pre-dawn twilight just beginning to dissipate, painting the sky in soft pastel tones. William Squires, as usual at this time, was driving his car to work from his home in the small town of Frontenac. The road was deserted, and he was enjoying the morning coolness and silence, anticipating another workday at the radio station. When he was about 10 kilometers from Pittsburgh, his attention was drawn to something unusual in the northeast. Above a dense thicket of forest, visible in the distance, a strange object hovered motionlessly. It was quite large and stood out clearly against the lightening sky. But the most astonishing thing was that on its surface, Squires could clearly distinguish several dark rectangles, resembling windows, from which, it seemed, a faint light emanated. "My hair stood on end," Squires later confessed, recalling that moment and trying to convey the mixed feeling of fear and curiosity that gripped him. "I had never seen anything like it in my life, and my first thought was that it was some new secret military aircraft, but its shape and behavior were just too strange." He said that the object's shape resembled two huge turtle shells or two large oval platters, neatly placed one on top of the other, convex sides outwards. Around the edges, where these two hypothetical halves joined, forming a kind of rim or rib, one could see many small, closely spaced, outwardly protruding devices, which Squires identified as propellers. Their diameter, by his estimation, was between 20 and 40 centimeters. These numerous propellers rotated rapidly and almost silently, probably creating lift or providing maneuverability for the craft. This was a detail that struck him with its unusualness and technical complexity. According to Squires, who tried to estimate the size of what he saw as accurately as possible, the object was impressive, approximately 20 meters long, about 15 meters wide, and about 7.5 meters high. At first, it moved slightly and smoothly back and forth, as if surveying the area or choosing a landing spot, and then it slowly descended and hovered over a large field adjacent to the highway Squires was driving on. It hovered at a low altitude, perhaps a few meters from the ground. The color of the object's hull was matte aluminum, without any identifying marks or inscriptions, and its surface appeared smooth but not shiny. In the upper part of the hull, closer to the rib where the shells joined, there were several rectangular windows, elongated horizontally. A soft, bluish light, which sometimes flared brighter and then almost completely dimmed, creating a pulsating effect, emanated through these windows. Behind these windows, despite the subdued light, Squires could discern some intense movement, a bustle. However, it was difficult to see clearly, as if a translucent curtain or frosted glass had been lowered from the inside. "I could only see indistinct silhouettes, figures moving behind it," he explained. But the most incredible thing was yet to come. Slightly to the side of this group of windows, closer to the edge of the object, there was another window, also rectangular in shape. Unlike the others, nothing obstructed the view into this window. It was completely transparent. And behind this window, Squires, disbelieving his own eyes, could clearly make out the head and shoulders of a human figure, sitting motionless. This person, or being resembling a person, was sitting sideways to the observer, and his gaze was intently focused on some instrument or on the edge of the object itself, as if he were controlling the craft or monitoring instrument readings. "I am absolutely certain, without any doubt, that I saw a human being through that window," Squires insisted to investigators. "It wasn't a trick of the light or my imagination. It was a person just like you and me." This detail made the strongest impression on him. Gripped by an irresistible desire to get a closer look and perhaps even try to make contact, Squires carefully pulled over to the shoulder of the road, turned off his car's engine, and, trying not to make any noise, got out. Slowly, step by step, he began to move towards the object hovering over the field, which was now only a few hundred meters away from him. His heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of his chest. But as soon as he had taken a few steps, he first heard a low, steady hum, like the sound of a powerful transformer, which apparently emanated from the object itself. And then, almost instantaneously, this hum was replaced by a sharp, flapping sound, which Squires later compared to the sound of a flock of frightened partridges simultaneously taking flight from the ground. With this sound, the object, with incredible speed, without any visible acceleration, shot vertically upwards and disappeared from view within a few seconds, leaving behind only a ringing silence and a faint smell of ozone in the morning air. On the spot where it had just hovered, only noticeably flattened grass remained, as if pressed down by something heavy. William Squires was absolutely convinced that this object was piloted by people, ordinary people, not some beings from Mars or another galaxy. The appearance of the pilot he had seen in the window left him in no doubt about this. Later, upon arriving at the radio station, he, extremely agitated, told his colleagues what had happened. Some of them, intrigued by his story and knowing Squires as a serious person not prone to fabrications, decided to return with him to the scene of the incident. To their surprise, they indeed found a large patch of flattened grass in the field, which was pressed into the ground in a circle, as if it had been blown down by the powerful propeller of an airplane or helicopter, as one of them put it. This served as indirect confirmation of Squire's story. Later, representatives of the U.S. Air Force became interested in this case. They conducted their own investigation, examined the site of the alleged UFO hovering, took soil and grass samples, and interviewed William Squires in detail. In the official documents of Project Blue Book, the official U.S. Air Force project for UFO research, the eyewitness testimony was classified as good and credible. This case was even mentioned in Special Report Number 14 of Project Blue Book. Note: the original text mentioned Special Report Number 4, but Special Report 14 is the more widely known statistical analysis. This could be a point of minor discrepancy or a specific internal report, which indicates that the military took it quite seriously, although they could not provide a definitive explanation for it. For William Squires, that morning forever remained one of the most vivid and mysterious memories of his life, forcing him to look anew at the world around him and the secrets it might hold.